Hey. Hopefully,
What up?
hopefully
Who
that
you
wasn't
laughing
too
about?
loud. For
What's so funny, Edward?
Because the first thing I do is just like yell the second that we start the podcast. Hopefully, I didn't blow anyone's ears out. I know that that's like that's the worst. I know that that's the worst. Like whenever I'm listening to a podcast, and also this is in reference to our very faithful and watchful audience who probably noticed that we had Putney Swope and then Putney Swope went away and then Putney Swope returned.
Yeah.
We've had some audio issues over the past few weeks. So we've transitioned a few times, like over and over and over. We've kind of been switching around our audio setup and our recording setup to kind of make it as perfect as possible for you guys. And with saying that, I want to go and get this out of the way right away, and that is to like and subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what you're listening to, and if you don't like us, you can also just like and subscribe to the channel, and you can leave us a comment.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you can leave us a mean comment.
Yeah. We're like the movie God's Not Dead. You all have to arrive at the same conclusion, which is that we're awesome. Like,
Yeah, it's like, well, I guess we have to subscribe to these guys anyway.
yeah. Yep, that's right, folks. And this week we're reviewing a movie about an alcoholic, so this is going to be a drinking episode. So stick around for the fun. Stick around for the fun, ladies and gentlemen.
As it goes, as it's now becoming tradition, as we had, what was it? What started this? It was another round, right?
Oh yeah, we drank, dude. We drank heavily on that one.
That was another one of your picks.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, that's why I keep picking drinking movies, man. So I have an excuse to get drunk on the pod, man. But yeah, we're back, everybody. Edward, I wanted to shout out real quick. Happy birthday to Doug Bradley, who is best known for playing Pinhead, the famous horror villain from the Hellraiser series. Of course, when you listeners are listening to this, it will no longer be Doug Bradley's birthday, but a couple days ago it was. So, from when you're listening to it, of course. But happy birthday to Doug Bradley. He is 68, 69 years old, I believe. So, but yeah, fucking legend, dude.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Happy birthday to an icon. It feels like I've lost track of things because I somehow in my head I had it that somebody had passed away over the last week. Not even I don't think I even have it in my head. I think it's actually true.
Yeah.
But I can't remember who it was.
It was Bray Wyatt of WWE.
Yeah, that's right. You and I talked about that. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I meant to shout him out on like the last one, but we sort of got sidetracked. But yeah, rest in peace to Bray Wyatt.
Rest in peace to him, man.
Yeah, what a legend, man. I mean, I remember him from back when he was Husky Harris in WWE. He was part of the Nexus, Wade Barrett's kind of stable or whatever. But what was I think his cause of death was heart attack, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, his real name was Wyndham Lawrence Rotunda. It says Rotunda died of a heart attack while asleep at his home in Brooksville, Florida, on August 24th, 2023, at the age of 36. Man, that's young, dude. I didn't realize he was that young. He accomplished a lot at a young age.
Yeah.
I mean, wrestling, like any other athletic, based profession. I mean, it's it's a young man's game, but I mean, the dude was he was an icon of like modern WWE, modern pro wrestling. Bray Wyatt. I mean, he became a pretty iconic character. Fought the Undertaker at WrestleMania. I remember, but
he was a little bit after my time, but I was there just enough to see him, and I know that people really liked him, and I know people really respected like his wrestling and his abilities.
Yeah, he was after.
Really sad, man. Just to...
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, but yeah, I was gonna say that was it's really sad just to know that, and when I saw those news, I felt it because I was like, oh man, that's like really impactful. So like just a young, like really talented wrestler too. Um, and one of the ones that, after kind of moving past or going kind of away from WWE, I just kept hearing about him. So that's really sad, man. Um, but there's another one. There's like another person that passed away, and I know you know who this is,
Uh, who
but
was it? Remind me.
it's the lead singer of Smash Mouth, Steve Harwell.
I did not know about this. Really?
Yep.
Smash Mouth singer died? Holy shit. Somebody once told me. I was hooked on that song as a kid. I loved All Star,
Yeah.
man. People would say, "Is
Yep.
that the song from Shrek?" And I'd be like, "Well, yeah, but it's a good song." As a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a good song. It is a song from Shrek, but it is a good song.
Oh, final stage liver failure. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
because that was the thing. I learned about that because I had seen just like an online post saying, just like kind of like there was like an update to like people online just saying that he was told by his doctors that he only had like days to live, and then he died, I think, the next day.
Holy shit. What
Can
happened?
you
Did
imagine that?
he drink too much, or the hell was going on there?
Who's to say, man? Who's to say? But that's the first time that I've seen something like that, where it was like, oh, you have days to live, and then I wake up the next day and he's already passed away.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. It says, this is interesting. It says Harwell, Stephen Scott Harwell. Harwell was initially a rapper in the group FOS, Freedom of Speech. He abandoned the Public Enemy Influence Project upon hearing Dr. Dre's 1992 album The Chronic and realizing that the genre was changing. That's interesting, man. That's very interesting. And then in 1994, he formed Smash Mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, they're both All Star, and then they had that song "Walking on the Sun." When I was like 9 years old, those were I loved those songs. I was such a cornball. I would like sing them to myself at school. People would make fun of me.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, they're like, "You singing the Shrek song?" It's just like, no, I'm singing Smash Mouth, man. Get with the program, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, rest in peace, man. That sucks. 56.
Yeah.
It's still too young, man.
Let's
56.
see.
Why did he have liver failure? That's what I want to know. You didn't say that, did you?
No, I didn't say like why it was. I had no
Okay.
idea. I had no idea like what it was that was the cause of it.
Okay. Just making sure because I'm like getting a good buzz going here and I'm like doubting my own brain power.
So am I. We're only a few minutes into this. But regardless, rest in peace to those guys. Rest in power.
Being cared for by his fiance. Let me see. He was previously diagnosed with cardiomyopathy, a form of heart disease. The band is also well known for its cover of the Monkees classic "I'm a Believer." I didn't realize that was a cover of the Monkees.
Really?
Yeah, that was the.
Her face. That song.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Well, you know who the Monkees are, right? They're
Yeah.
They have that song in Better Call Saul in the episode where he's like running the identity theft scams. That's the one playing in the montage. It's like my favorite montage of the show.
Yeah.
It cannot be a part of me, for now it's part of you.
But I know that song from them, obviously, I mean, really impactful. Even if the only thing people know them for is just that one song, it's just like it's still, great songs, really positive songs. Obviously part of the Shrek soundtrack. Everybody loves Shrek.
Somebody once told me. Oh, dude, Shrek's making a reappearance on the podcast. Remember that it was a meme for a little while?
that is a meme.
Donkey.
Yeah, I remember.
Fiona.
It's it's sad, but for the long time listeners, there was that episode where we talked about Infinity War.
Oh yeah, now
With
Thanos looks like Shrek. Yeah.
Shrek and Shrek kept coming up. So for the long time listeners, they probably know where this reference is. And for Jake, who's editing this, and for the Jake editing this episode in the future, for the Shrek memes in the video.
Yeah, if I'm feeling like not too lazy, I'll do it. Dude, imagine Thanos just coming out of a little like his spaceship, just being like, "This whole world is my swamp now." They're like, "What? What do you say, Thanos?" It's like, "Oh, I forgot which character I was for a second."
if Thanos' motivation had been, if his whole motivation had been to
I know what you're gonna say, dude. And I'm already fucking laughing. Oh my god!
If his whole motivation, I'm like gonna give myself a headache. If his whole motivation had been to simply make Earth his Shrek
with his donkey.
Had been all that he wanted, I think he would have been more successful than he ultimately was. You know? Like dividing the earth thing.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah, dude. If he just had if he just established 100 acres of land with of swampland, and then just chased people away. Fucking the Avengers just come in with pitchforks and torches, and they're just like, "Get him!" And he's just like, "I am an ogre." They're like, "This is getting really confusing, Thanos. We don't know which movie we're in anymore. Are we in Shrek or are we in Avengers?"
Wouldn't that have been great? Like, you start watching the fucking Avengers movie, and it's like, oh, they've been building this guy up. They've been building Thanos up. All of these series, from the first Avengers, and arguably even before that, is like, oh, Thanos. They're hinting towards Thanos. Right. And then so the guy shows up, and he's just like, I just want to. It's like, I heard you guys have a movie named Shrek, and I just want to get my own swamp.
Oh god. Mm-hmm.
That would have been great.
Mm-hmm. Donkey.
To me, movies that are to me, when it comes to movies, like the number one movie for me, my wanting to rewatch of I guess of big blockbuster movies, it's Infinity War Part 1.
Yeah, dude, we should watch that next time we hang out in person, or we could do a commentary on it. That wouldn't be a bad.
Would you be down to? Would you be down to watch that?
Hell yeah, dude!
I'd be so down to watch that, dude.
Dude, I wouldn't be
with pizza.
Oh fuck yeah, man! That's not a bad idea, man. Pizza
we're drinking,
soaking up the booze. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, dude. Yeah. Yeah, Infinity War was a great superhero movie. That's one of the greats of superhero cinema. It was all downhill from there, man. That. It really was all downhill
it really has,
from there, dude.
It really, no, dude, you're absolutely right. It has been all of that. It has been all downhill from there. I had a really enjoyable experience with that movie because I went to see that movie in theaters. Part 1 I saw in theaters.
Yeah,
and that was great, man. Yeah, it's interesting because every so often I would see a movie in theaters and be like, oh, I'm really happy that I got to see that in theaters. For instance, we watched Oppenheimer, and that's one of those where I was like, I'm really glad that we watched it in theaters. That was awesome.
Yeah, that shit fucking ruled, man. Yeah. Yeah, Infinity War felt almost like a culmination of not only the Avengers and the MCU, but also of just all superhero movies. It's just this is the peak. This is what we can achieve with this type of movie. It's you saw all the MCU movies, you saw the Raimi Spider-Man films, you saw the X-Men films. It's this is peak superhero cinema. This is what we can do, And it's just been all downhill from there, man. We get some.
It really has.
Yeah, we get a couple home runs with we get a couple heavy hitters like Spider-Man No Way Home.
Spider-Man.
That was solid. I still have to see The Flash. That's on HBO Max now.
I know that that's not a heavy hitter. I know that that's a wet blanket.
We'll see. I mean, it's got mixed reviews. It's a little divisive, I
Yeah.
guess. But
Yeah. But it's funny. It's funny for me to say that, as you know, because me being the person who came out like however many episodes ago and defended both the Justice League movie and the Batman v Superman movies. As you know, I enjoy those movies like quite a bit.
yeah.
Um, but obviously that might be more so because of like Snyder, and obviously Snyder's not involved with this Flash thing. I don't know what to expect for that.
Well, you said this Justice League movie. I mean, did you see the Whedon cut or the Snyder cut?
There
So
was Snyder. Yeah, I never saw the Whedon one. I saw the Snyder one,
yeah,
and I
I
had a
never saw the
lot of
Whedon
fun with
cut.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I had a lot of fun with the Snyder cut. Of that.
yeah. The Snyder cut was the Snyder cut was great. The Snyder cut just went all in on the sort of dark Theo Von dark vision, man. Those are
Dark Vision.
it went all in on like the dark vision that Zack Snyder had. Just this, took it seriously, man. It was like, dude, I have these superheroes. We're telling a story that's like, to me, when I watched the Snyder cut, it was like, this guy is not afraid. This guy, Zack Snyder, he's not afraid to come out and just say, hey, we're making a movie that's akin to the ancient Greek myths. It's like, that's what we're doing here. And unapologetically, he did it, and it worked, man. He showed that you don't have to do big superhero mashups and make them goofy. You can, which they're great when they are, like Infinity War.
Yeah.
Not goofy, but a more lighthearted until the ending, of course.
Yeah.
But
exactly, and that's where I think both because I think both of those movies are a triumph in their own way. I think both of those movies are good. I think Infinity War is better than Justice League, but I think they're both good movies.
Yeah, I do too.
And the Justice League movie, the Snyder one, I feel like an edge that it has War movie is also that it feels artistic, like in its presentation. And
yes,
like it's aesthetic choices. It just feels like such like a good looking movie,
dude. Yeah.
And Infinity War, it's interesting, and then like Spider-Man, like next to that in a way. But Infinity War is interesting because I feel like it's the movie where they were able to cohesively merge kind of like the more laid back way of storytelling that they had been going for, with the humor and the references, and like the meta humor that they had in those movies. Like it just felt like a really good mixture of that with actual like real stakes, and like seriousness. The movie felt serious because Thanos just forced it. So it's like he forced the movie to take itself seriously, and for the jokes and all the bullshit to be something that just has to acclimate itself around that. And obviously had a perfect ending, the way the movie ends. Obviously then Endgame kind of threw a lot of that to the wind, but Endgame had a lot of successes in its own way, even though it had to like create a lot of plot contrivances and fucking kind of break everything apart and just do a lot of like, oh, isn't this convenient that somehow, like, to me, the biggest thing with that movie, I think, didn't we watch that movie together? I think we watched Endgame together, right?
No, I remember where I was when I watched Endgame.
But with that movie, it obviously had a really good ending, but it just like sacrificed a lot of cohesiveness, and a lot of things didn't make sense when you took the previous movie into account,
Yeah.
Because to me, the biggest issue that I had with the Endgame was like, why did they nerf everybody so much? You know what I'm saying?
Why did they what?
Or did they nerf the characters? Like they nerfed them. Like at the final battle, and spoilers for the Avengers Endgame.
What's that mean?
The final fight in
them?
Endgame. Nerfing them?
Yeah, what's that mean?
Is it
am I
nerf?
stupid?
I think it is nerf.
Am I an idiot?
I think the word here is like nerfing a character. Let me see. Nerf. Unless I'm like using this word wrong. Yes, it says cause to be weak or ineffective.
Oh, great. So I'm the idiot, not you. Awesome.
I'll make a note here so you can figure this out.
Yeah, just like I'm like Rick and Morty's mind blowers, just like clipping things out to make myself look good.
You never won against me at chess. I will erase the memory from existence.
No, but
No, to
continue.
me, to me, to me, the funniest bit there is like the granite thing,
Oh
because
yeah,
I
it was so petty.
encounter people to this day. I encountered people. I had that happened today.
Someone said
Like at
take
work
for
today.
granted to you
Somebody said granite, granite.
instead of granted.
Granted.
Rick, don't you mean granted? What are you, a boulder, a rock person?
Boulder. Yeah, rock person.
That was awesome.
But back to the original tangent. Yes, in that movie, they nerfed everybody. Because in the very first Infinity War, you had Thanos at full power. And Thanos at full power with four of the stones, right? In possession of four of the Infinity Stones or whatever they're called. In possession of four of them, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and then three of the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Which those guys don't have superpowers. They're just guys. Like
Right.
they're like that. This the Mantis. I think that's her name.
Yeah,
Her
she's got
character.
superpower.
She has no like strength. Just to say what make people's brains like calm down. She's able to calm people down.
Yeah, she
And
has one of
Drax,
the lame superpowers.
yeah, and the only thing that you could have put on Drax is that he has super strength. That's all he
Right.
has. And then Peter Quill doesn't have it. He's a human, with some kind of like magic resisting powers because his dad is like a star or whatever it is.
Yeah. And then what's the
So you have
green chick's name again? What's her name?
Gamora. And Gamora just has
Gamora.
like
Yeah, she's just
Gamora's
green.
Yeah, she's green. And I feel like with them, it's like Quill has no powers except for when he magically does, because he's like the son of a star or whatever it is. Like, the guy's a planet. He's the son of a planet. Um, and I feel like Gamora and Drax, I feel like you could just say like, okay, they have superpowers. They have super strength and like durability. Probably you could account that for them. As far as to what this movies have shown us, like okay, you could say they have super strength and like durability.
Yeah.
But obviously the raccoon is just a raccoon, and the tree is a tree. Who can grow branches. So they're like pretty
Yeah.
in terms of they're pretty neat, you know.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm trying to make here is that basically that ragtag crew of people, right? They were enough to take on Thanos, and they almost defeated him. If it hadn't been for Quill cool, right? In Infinity War, again, spoilers for these movies. Because Quill lost his cool because they were that close to defeating him. They were gonna take the gauntlet off of him, and that was it. They literally were able to overpower him, just those characters. And then when he went to Earth and he was like kind of slapping everybody around, because obviously he was being met with less resistance. Because on Earth, all they had was like Captain America and Black Panther. So
Yeah.
those guys are not gonna do anything. And those are the guys that he was met with. So he just kind of slapped them around. But then Thor shows up, and Thor literally almost kills him. Like that's how that movie ends. Thor literally was seconds away from killing him, and he snapped his fingers.
Yep.
And then when we meet him in the next film, because he used the stones to do such like a magnitude of a thing to erase half of existence, the stones, like the gauntlet didn't work anymore. So he was still kind of like hurt, both from having used the stone and from Thor almost killing him. Because that's why at the very beginning of the Infinity War, that's why at the very beginning of Endgame, they just kill him. They just show up and kill him.
Yeah.
Because
he's just a Shrek in his cabin.
Exactly. They encounter him. He's on full Shrek mode.
Yeah.
Full Shrek mode.
That's when I first drew that comparison, was that scene. I was like, I can't believe he didn't like kick the door open and then kick like toilet paper off his foot. Somebody once told me. Yeah.
That was full Shrek mode for him, but what I'm trying to say is, I'm being very long-winded about this. But then we cut to the end of the film in Endgame. Again, spoilers for Endgame. We cut to the end of the film, and suddenly he has to fight, right? Um, Thanos with no stones, right? Because the whole thing with Infinity War, or rather Endgame, is super convoluted because they start messing with time, and when you start messing with time, it usually never makes sense. And then
Yeah.
in Endgame, they made it so that Thanos from the past knew that in the future they had gone back to the past and stolen the stones. So then Thanos from the past goes to the future to where they had already taken the stones to take it back from them so that he could do what he did in Infinity War again. That's how convoluted this is, right?
Yeah.
Um, so then in Endgame, Thanos shows up, right? And so he's now fighting Thor, the same Thor that literally almost killed him. Like literally, Thor almost one shot him in Infinity War. He's facing Thor, he's facing Captain America, and he's facing Iron Man, and he just completely obliterates them. And then more people show up because Captain Marvel shows up, who's like the strongest of these all of these people.
Right.
You know, Spider-Man shows up, everybody shows up at the end of Endgame. And even then, he's still obliterating them. He's like blitzing everybody with no stones, just him. Just him, not the fucking stones, just Thanos blitzing everybody. And that's the thing that made me angry when I watched that movie. So I was like, you can't just part away from continuity,
Yeah.
because continuity-wise, had established that Iron Man, Spider-Man, and fucking Doctor Strange and three of the Guardians were enough to match this guy with the
Right.
stones.
Exactly.
And with the stones established that Thor one KO'd him. Like he just KO'd him right away.
Yeah.
And then in the next movie, you go, actually, no, he's able to take on everybody, including Captain Marvel, including everybody. And that to me is like the thing that pissed me the most off. And to me, since then, I feel like those movies have been on a decline. They've not made a good movie. I feel like since the Spider-Man movie. So
Yeah.
they made Spider-Man, then they made Spider-Man, and then everything else has been bad. And obviously, I have to check out the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but yeah.
Oh, dude, I forgot there was a third Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, you know what, dude? You know who else did that? It was the same thing with WWE was really guilty of that sin that you're talking about, which was
Mhm.
it was like I remember. I think I talked about this before, but it may have been in a older episode. But like, fucking, I remember in WWE, it was like the same thing where it was like, oh, we got like a heel and a face, for laymen on WWE, that's a villain and a crowd favorite, and they're fighting, and it's like, the face has to beat the heel, and then a year later, it's like the same two guys fight, and it's like they flipped though, like now the other one's a crowd favorite and the other one's villain, and it's like I guess what I'm trying to say is, they did the same thing where it was like a good example would be like Randy Orton and Batista. Like when Batista was like a crowd favorite, he plays Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy, by the way. But when Batista was a crowd favorite, he was like kicking Randy Orton's ass, and then all of a sudden when Batista was booed and Randy Orton was cheered, like 1 year later, it was like Randy Orton was kicking Batista up and down the fucking like ring, and it was just like this makes no sense. Like you guys are just but yeah, like WWE, I feel like did the same thing. That's always I hear totally what you're saying, dude. That's always bothered me when I guess I learned a new term tonight. Nerfed when you nerf characters.
Yeah, exactly. No, you've heard me say that before. I think you probably just forgot.
Yeah.
But the thing that pisses me off is like to me that's always been an issue, and that's an issue with me also because of how like the stuff that I grew up watching. Like I grew up watching like Dragon Ball Z and like all this like anime.
Yeah, where they're very conscious of that stuff. Like Hunter
Yeah, but
Hunter x Hunter was the same way.
exactly, and the cool thing about Hunter x Hunter is that Hunter x Hunter was like so good about that.
They
That's
were.
like where I applaud that series because no, I've not seen a single anime that is better at handling power scaling as Hunter x Hunter is.
Yeah, they
Like
even
it's
spell
just
it out in Hunter x Hunter. That scene where
mhm.
Kahlua like draws it in the dirt and is just like, okay, this is your skill level gone. You're a piece of shit. Like you're Ahsoka's level, you know. Yeah. Yeah, no, they were
but
really
yeah,
good about that.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like they were really good about it. And the issue is that I don't know if you've ever seen Dragon Ball. That Dragon Ball is like really bad about it. Dragon Ball Z is really
Oh,
bad
okay.
about power scale. Like at some point it just goes completely off the rails, and it's because Dragon Ball Z has a it basically has like this weird numeric magical system. It doesn't have like an actual intricate like system of power. And that's the thing about Hunter x Hunter, that despite all of the show's exposition, it does all this exposition because it's trying to explain like something really intricate that's going to help you out in the long run. You know.
Yeah. That's a that's a really good line. That's a line that Hunter x Hunter walks really well. That show Dark that I've been watching lately walks as well, where it's like you're giving the audience information without making them feel stupid. But the concepts that it's dealing with are complex enough to where it's like we have to help the audience out, but also not make them feel like idiots.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely hear what you're saying. Speaking of Thanos, another. Well, no, go ahead. Sorry, you seem like you want to finish that point.
No. You can go ahead. I can go back to this.
No, I was just gonna say. Speaking of Thanos, I thought about another little purple guy this past week when that Barney clip uploaded. I thought of because I remembered. You know, we uploaded that clip of us talking about the Barney movie that Mattel is planning, which is going to be like a surrealist Charlie Kaufman / Spike Jonze type thing. And I had this, it popped in my head because I remember when as a kid, like it was always like Barney was just taking care of these kids, like singing with them. He's just like, always got this energy about him. Like some kid will just start like singing and he'll just start dancing and go along with it. But I was like, you know what happens when Barney's just like fucking like hungover and he has like a headache in the runs, you know, and he's just like in class and he doesn't feel like does Barney ever have off days, you know, where he like goes into that classroom and the kids are like, Barney, let's dance, you know, and Barney's just like, you know, I got a fucking headache, kids. Just fucking go outside and play.
Did you make Barney sound like Jordan Peterson?
What'd you say? What's that? What'd you
So
say?
if you're doing a Barney impression, he should sound like Jordan Peterson.
I don't know if I could do a cross between Jordan Peterson and Barney. It's like kids, trans people aren't real. I don't know. I can't really do that. That's too intricate for me, Edward. But fucking dude, I was like, what? Does Barney ever come in and he's just like, fuck, I don't want to do this today. Kids are like, Barney, let's sing about school. Barney's like, let's fucking not. Barney, I have to poop and I don't know how to wipe yet. Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Figure it out, kid. I can't be wet. My purple paws are too big to be wiping your ass with. I get shit on them.
Oh man,
so stupid, man. But anyway, now speaking of school, man, we uploaded that school clip of school stories, and I told you, man, there were so many school stories that I forgot to tell. It was like a few weeks ago. It was like a month ago at this point. Month and a half ago, probably, on the Whatever Works episode. We were telling school stories. And dude, a bunch of them, after I posted that clip, which I've been trying to get better about putting clips on our channel as well.
Like, I need to get better about that too.
Yeah.
I have not posted one.
Yeah, you haven't done any, Edward.
All the time.
Little fucker. Yeah. Well, I didn't hold up my end of my promise, which last week I said I was going to get all of the podcasts up to date on Apple, but I didn't do that. So I got like 2 up there, 2 more. So we're like 7 behind still. Yeah. But
good job, dude. Regardless,
it takes forever, man. Yeah, good job, Jake. It's like playing video games with the controller unplugged. Look at you go, Jake.
Good job.
You got the high score.
Wow.
2 podcast episodes. Good job. But no, man, dude, there were so many that I didn't tell. Dude, the one I thought of was I remember in middle school we had this friend who dude, it was like dead of winter, right? And we were, dude, like my friends and I in middle school, we would like get off the bus and just not go home. Like we would get off the bus and just walk around like trying to find trouble. Like we'd just walk around like ringing doorbells, just being menaces. And there was this woman in this neighborhood. It was like I think it was like an adjacent neighborhood to mine. No. It was like the far side of my neighborhood. So it was like way away from my house, but it was like on the complete opposite end. But I remember there was this, we were friends with this kid there was this like mean old lady in this neighborhood. She was always like, she was known as just like this grouchy old woman. I don't know what her problem was, but I remember the one of our friends, like, dude, it was dead of winter, and he got on top of her car and took a shit on her windshield. Like, dude, he just gets up there, like pulls down his pants and shits on her windshield. And I remember, dude, like just watching this and like my lungs just stopped working. Like I was laughing so goddamn hard because I knew that like what was next was that come morning the shit would be frozen to her windshield and like just stuck there. I can't believe I forgot that one. But yeah, that one was funny, man. Fuck.
That's pretty funny, dude.
I always wondered like what got into people. Like I was the kid. I never had the guts to do anything like that as a kid. I was always the instigator. Like I was the one who would like dare the other kid to do something. And then like when they got in trouble, I would just be I would just be the one who like dared, my friend to do it. I was the instigator. And then when they would do it and they'd get in trouble, I would just be like rolling on the ground, just laughing my fucking ass off. Like rolling around as if I'm trying to put out a fire. Like just fucking like dying of laughter. Oh my God, yeah, I was a real prick. No. I was a good kid some of the time. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot that one. Dude, there was another one that, speaking of shitting on cards, I remember in high school, I knew a kid who did not 1, but 2 Chicago sunroofs in the school parking lot.
Not 1, but 2. But of his own car or with cars?
Oh, not his own car. Why would you do a Chicago sunroof to your own car?
How are you able to get away with 2 of those?
Well... So if anyone doesn't know what a Chicago sunroof is, it's made famous by Better Call Saul. Well, Better Call Saul coined the term. It's when you shit through someone's sunroof. But, they've been around since long before Better Call Saul was around, I'm assuming. But, Better Call Saul finally gave it a name. But I knew this kid in high school who, dude, it was senior year. And I guess like it was like toward the end of the year too. He just wanted to do like a senior prank type thing. So he goes. So like he goes to his plan is to go to his ex-girlfriend's car. I heard about this after the fact. Like I wasn't even friends with this guy, but his plan was to go to his girlfriend's car and or his ex-girlfriend's car rather, and do a Chicago sunroof. Keep in mind, this is his ex-girlfriend from middle school. So I have no idea what this guy's problem was that he's like shitting through a sunroof senior year. It's like, dude, you haven't gotten over this yet. But but he goes up to the car, right? And he gets on top of the roof and starts shitting through. He pulls open the sun. Dude, you gotta like force the sunroof open probably. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like the sunroof on my car is automatic, but I guess some people just have like maybe a manual sunroof where you just pull it open. But either way, dude, he was able to get that thing open. And he shits through this sunroof. Dude, halfway through his shit, he realizes it's not his girlfriend's car. So this guy pinches off his shit, cuts it off, goes to and finds his girlfriend's actual car and finishes his shit in her car.
He had a lot in there.
So like
in there.
Yeah, dude, he ended up shitting like Chicago sunroofing 2 fucking cars. Like 2 cars.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so this poor guy, I knew the kid who got the first half of the shit. It just has shit in his car as like collateral damage.
Oh, that's horrible. I feel like if that happens to you, I feel like you have to get a new car. I feel like at that point you have to get a new car.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you gotta like definitely do the. I don't know. I'm someone who had a fucking, you know this. I had a geriatric dog that would always shit on the carpet. So I'm like an expert at this point and pulling feces out of a. I feel
like there's a difference. I feel like there's a difference between like human feces and animal feces. Like if you had your car, your car is out in the sun, your car is just toasting, and somebody takes a human defecation into your car,
defecation,
and then that just sits there in the hot car all through the day. And when you get to that car, there's just shit in your car.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough.
It is, dude. Yeah. That's funny, dude. Yeah, because one of those shit stories is in the dead of winter and the other one's like beginning of summer. So, yeah, a good little balance of defecation stories there. I wanted to ask you, Edward, too, speaking of school, were you ever bullied or did you ever bully anybody in school?
Yes and no. This is the thing. When I was a kid, there.
Oh no!
I'm really laughing. When I was a kid, we went to this school where the grades were combined. It was a very small school, and so the grades there were a couple of grades that were combined specifically, like the lower grades. And by that I mean that for whatever reason, and I cannot explain to you why this is how it was, but for whatever reason, there was a point in time in which I think first and second grade were in the same room. They were in the same room.
Oh wow.
And so so this is the thing. First and second grade are in the same room, and the thing with me is that my brother started school in such a way where technically I would have been 2 years below him. So if he was in third grade, I would have been in first, or I would have been in first. If he was in third, I would have been in first. But for whatever reason, I don't remember why. I must have been a very smart, bright boy. They advanced me.
Yeah, that's right.
Skipped a grade.
Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah.
So I skipped a grade, and because of that, suddenly I was a very young fellow amongst other young kids.
Yeah.
So if the other kids were 6, I was 5. And so it had happened that me and my brother were sharing a classroom. He was in second grade and I was in first, or he was in third and I was in second.
Hell
I think he said he was in third and I was in second. But we were literally in the same classroom. I'm in the same classroom with my older brother, so I have some protection. But the issue is that for whatever reason, my brother has beef with this other kid,
Shout out, man. Shout out to your brother.
Yeah, shouts out to my brother. My brother is probably the most recurring character in this podcast. And he listens to us, so he knows when we shout him out. Shouts out to my brother. And if you're listening to this, leave a comment and subscribe. He's already subscribed. Leave a comment.
Hell yeah!
But he had beef with this other kid, and he could also kind of add some truth to this story where I'm maybe modeling it because I can't for the life of me I can't remember things correctly anymore. Um, but we have beef, or he had beef with another kid, which and this other kid was in his grade. They were in the same grade, so they were in like third grade. Um, and because of that, it translated to me having beef with that kid's youngest brother, who was in my grade. So his younger brother was in second grade, you know. And so then I had beef with his younger brother, and they had beef with us. So we had like this sibling thing where we just have everybody just has beef.
Yeah.
Um, we're kids. And also, I am the youngest one involved here. Because the kid that I have beef with, the other kid's younger brother, the kid's technically a year older than me.
Right. Yeah.
But my brother is the same age as the other kid. And so we, so then I think one day my brother had a fight with the older brother. So
Okay.
they had like a little backyard fight, my brother and that other kid, in which at some point my brother, I think he maybe realized that he was losing and he couldn't get like the upper hand in the fight. And mind you, I was like a witness only to like the last bits of this fight. Because then I rushed out. We were fighting in the like the backyard, and I rushed out to see what was happening. And in me doing that, I witnessed like the end of the fight, and it was my brother grabbing like a stick, like a big wooden stick that was on the floor, and smacking this kid behind his legs, like behind his knees.
Hell yeah, man.
This kid just fell to the ground, like extremely like dramatically. And his brother was there to witness this happen. And so they took to the principal's office. And in the principal's office, we were all there, all four brothers, the two brothers and me and my brother. And there, the younger brother was just sobbing in front of the principal, saying that my brother had killed his brother. And this is like serious. This is like legitimate, like a serious sob, like his brother's dead. And the principal said, "No, your brother's right there. He's sitting like right there." And then he started crying. That wasn't his brother, but that was a ghost.
Oh, he said it was a ghost?
It was a ghost.
Ah! Dude, what
in
the
his
fuck?
mind, he saw his brother die.
Dude, he was
but-
dude, he was dramatizing it, man. He knew damn well his brother was fine.
To us at that point in time, and to me to this day, I think he was like dead serious.
You think
He
so?
was like, my brother's dead. Yeah. maybe it was just like such a shocking experience seeing his brother get beat down and just fall to the ground. Maybe that was such a shocking thing that he was just like, oh, he's dead. There's no way that somebody can survive this.
Oh man.
The end to the story is that we got expelled. They told us not to come back to school for like 2 days.
Oh, you mean suspended?
Suspended.
You said expelled. I was like, holy shit.
No, yeah. We were suspended. We were suspended for 2 days.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I have drank entirely too much too quickly, but I'm gonna try to keep it together on this episode. Dude, I'm gonna be, I dabbled in bullying a little bit as a kid, and it never worked out for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I was not really a bully. I was not much of a bully. There were some instances of that happening with me, but it was like of me doing it to like a friend,
Yeah.
But not that much of a
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you're usually like, I remember junior year of high school, it was like I was the target pretty badly of bullying by a friend. Yeah, it's like it's like a friend or like a person in the friend group that's like that targets you. You're right about that. Dude, still to this day I want to fucking knock that guy's head off. But
yeah, dude, because that's the thing. He created like, that movie Happy Gilmore, right? Or no, not Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, of course.
Billy Madison.
Billy Madison.
Yeah. Where he calls that guy, and that guy like takes him off of the people he was gonna kill.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no, I'm not Steve Buscemi and Billy Madison. No, the only time that I attempt The only time that I attempted that I dabbled in bullying, I got my ass kicked. It was in second grade. I chose my target really unwisely. I tried to bully a fifth grader, and as
Yeah,
a
that sounds
second
like an
grader.
unwise target.
Yeah, I was an idiot. But yeah, I don't remember how the beef started, but basically the way it went was like every day I would get on the bus, and this fifth grader would be he was like my neighbor. You know, he was like he lived like up the street from me. But like every day I would get on the bus. I don't remember how the beef started or anything like that, but I know we were beefing somehow. And so I started just antagonizing him. Like I would get on the bus and I would be like, "Oh, look at Mr. fucking, Bucktooth. You look like
hilarious.
yeah, I was like, you look like you have shit on your face, idiot." Just dumb shit like that. And then I would do this I did this for like 3-4 days, right? Just get on the bus, no consequences. Just on the bus, get on the bus, fucking, make fun of him. "Oh, you look like you got pissed on, idiot, dumbass." Just dumb shit. I was feeling I was feeling fired up, And then I remember one day, I'm a couple days later, after doing it every day I'm antagonizing this fifth grader. And I'm walking home, and he lives up the street from me, right? So
but you told me the story. Now I remember this.
Yeah, he by all means he should have like gone to his house already. I'm walking down the street, like nothing's wrong. And then all of a sudden I see this shadow behind me, and I hear like a like a thumping of footsteps, like a thump, 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 thump. And before I can even turn around, I'm just blasted like in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Dude,
I remember.
Dude, I hit the ground and I was like, "Oh shit, it's him." And dude, I stand up and he he punches me in the face like probably like 5 times, just like as hard as he can, just
That's
like punches me in the face, and then like takes me by the backpack and like swings me around and just swings me into the asphalt or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. You told me about that.
And I was like,
coming back.
So dude, I'm like laying there. I'm like laying there just in this ball of like just pathetic, and I'm just like, "Screw you, man." And he's like, "You want some more? You want some more, punk?" And I'm like, "Get away from me." Ah. So dude, I walk home and I come home crying to my parents, and my parents are like, "All right, we gotta like talk to his dad," So like that night so dude, that night they walk up to his house and they like knock on the door, and his dad answers, and they're like, "Hey, so I think our son's like got in a little scuffle. Your son like beat our son up." And they said his dad like puts up his hand and just goes, "Say no more. I'm gonna handle it." So I'm pretty sure I got by being beat up by this kid and tattling on him, I got his ass kicked.
But the thing is,
like his dad beat the shit out of him.
You deserved what
Oh yeah. Oh dude, 100%. Like that was a 100%. Oh dude. I mean, I don't know who started the beef, but I kept it rolling. You know what I mean? Like I kept it going. Who knows? Like he could have been the one who started it. I could have been the one who started it. I have no idea. But I definitely kept it going, and I kept antagonizing him. And dude, his dad definitely beat the shit out of him. But yeah, you're 100% right. I always when I tell this story, the moral of Chief Keef, the moral of the story. The moral of the story
is the moral.
Yeah. The moral of the story is don't run your mouth. Don't shoot your mouth off to the wrong fucking person. Like that's dude, that was like a big life. Yeah, that was a big life lesson at that age, at such a young age. Like I was like, "Oh shit, I can't just like run my mouth to anybody. They'll beat the shit out of me."
Yeah.
But Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's an incredible story. That story is incredible. I'm glad that I kind of forgot it a little bit, so it surprised me.
Dude, I can still like I'm walking on I can still see his shadow like coming at me like in the asphalt of the road. Like I can still
For a
see it.
second, I thought you were gonna sing that Juice World song.
I still see shadows in my room. I still see you beating my ass. I thought you were the one who was gonna let me bully them. You found another one. I hope you won't forget my bullying. No. Yeah. No, we
That's a
had a
good
lot of
story.
dude, we had a lot of fucking delinquents like that in my neighborhood. I remember there was this at around that same age there was this up at our neighborhood clubhouse. It was weird. There were all these woods up there, and then like if you went back in the woods, there were these for some reason like whoever owned the land back there kept some like wrecked derby cars back there. And I remember like there was a group of kids I would hang out with, up at the neighborhood clubhouse. We would always play like backyard football and shit, but sometimes we would like get bored with that and just go into the woods and like, dude, we would build forts. Sometimes we would go like, ding dong ditch people, just whatever to have some fun, But I remember one day there's this one kid I didn't really like a lot that would sometimes join us, and he was a huge asshole. And I remember one day he had the idea to because there was these wrecked like derby cars back in the woods. I have no idea why the landowner kept these derby cars there or why they had them or anything, but they were just back there, dude, just totally abandoned. Like there was never anyone there. So this kid, like one day, has this idea to bring a sledgehammer back there and just start like wrecking the cars. He was just like, "Oh fuck!" Look. He was like, he was like, he was like, "Oh my god, fucking lucky day is coming up toward the finish line," and just started like fucking smashing out the windows, fucking smashing out the windshield. But yeah, we were delinquents back then, man. Um, no, it was fucking ridiculous. I miss being a kid, dude. Being a kid was awesome.
Yeah,
Being a kid was
it
awesome.
really was.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, dude.
Look, I'm going to be the party pooper for the audience and put a step here to our old high school and silly childhood stories. We'll continue these in a part three because
Yeah.
I have a continuation to the story that I told, which there's further developments. This rivalry continued.
Oh, dude, I hope I didn't cut
So
you
there's
off, man. I'm just,
no, didn't cut me off. I purposefully left that out because I was like, oh, I want to build this up. So listen to the part three. Search for the podcast that has the part three, or if we posted it, then listen to the part three, and there'll be a continuation to that story in there. But for the sake of Jake's and my livelihoods, what did you say that we break into some recaps? Unless there's something that you really want to tackle this week.
well, yeah, I mean, one thing that I wanted to get into was dude, I saw it today, man. Fucking Joker 2 is
What about it?
supposed to be a musical. I saw this headline today.
Really?
Yeah, which is which is really weird.
Honestly, I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'm all about it. I'm into it.
I mean, I could see them doing like one or two scenes with a musical. I wouldn't mind that because I know they did that in The Boys, where
Yeah.
in the show The Boys, like that show is really it's a very dark show, but there's a lot of dark comedy in it. It's like a
Mhm.
you know first and foremost, obviously it's like an action and superhero show, but black comedy is like a very you know it stands out as a black comedy. That's like one of the big foundational genres of that show. And
Mhm.
they did that in that show where there's like at least one or two scenes where this one of the good kind of superhero characters in that show is mute. and she has a couple scenes where she breaks out into like a musical kind of thing, but it's like a sort of character moment. So I could see that working in Joker too if they do something like that, which that's my guess. I don't know, I don't know if they're gonna do like a full on, like 10-song musical kind of thing. I doubt it.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Yeah, no, I doubt it. Like it sounds it honestly, I rather that. Like I rather that they do that than just be like, well, this is a Joker sequel and Lady Gaga plays Harley Quinn. At least it makes sense why they would cast Lady Gaga and be like, oh, they're getting a singer, you know. I don't know what Joaquin's gonna do. Actually, no, Joaquin can sing because he played Johnny Cash and Walk the Line, so he can sing, you know.
Oh, that's right.
So he has two people that can sing, you know. I think that's interesting. I legitimately think that's more interesting than just making like a plain old sequel. I'm into it. I'm into whatever it could be. That sounds more entertaining than the opposite. Yeah. And it makes sense. The casting makes sense now, honestly.
That's true. Yeah,
Um
Lady Gaga. I mean, shit.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, dude, I buy it. I buy it. I don't think Joaquin's gonna get an Oscar for this one, but I buy it.
Yeah, probably not. The other thing I wanted to touch on too, the new Godzilla trailer came out for the Japanese Godzilla movie.
Really? Look at that.
Yeah, Godzilla. The official title is Godzilla Minus One. Which I don't
Mhm.
know how I feel about that title, because basically what the title means is, again, it seems almost like a remake of the original Japanese Godzilla movie because it takes place in post-war Japan. And the title is basically like, post-war Japan was at an economic state of zero, and then Godzilla attacking
Mhm.
leaves them in a
Mhm.
negative state, like -1. So
Mhm.
it's not the catchiest title, but it makes sense, I guess. Um,
Mhm.
the trailer looked cool. One thing that I was a little concerned about, it did seem like it seemed almost like a retread of Shin Godzilla, where Godzilla doesn't look like Shin Godzilla. He looks more like, honestly, this Godzilla looks a lot like the legendary Godzilla. If
Mhm.
anything, his design, he's like a cross between the '90s Godzilla and the 2014, Legendary Pictures Godzilla. Um,
Mhm.
but the trailer looked pretty good, but it did seem like a retread of Shin Godzilla. I don't know if maybe the trailer just felt like Shin Godzilla, like similar
Mhm.
music and similar a similar tone. Maybe the actual movie won't be that way. And I did hear that this movie is actually going to have another monster for Godzilla to fight, but that just hasn't
Mhm.
been hasn't been revealed in the trailer. But I'm excited. I think it comes out December 1st, I think. I don't know if that's just in Japan or if that's going to be
Mhm.
internationally, but that's always been the tradition, Godzilla movies coming out in December.
Mhm.
Um so I'm excited for it. I think it'll be good, man. I trust Japan, especially these days with their Godzilla movies. I know, Shin Godzilla was obviously fantastic, and then
Mhm.
the Godzilla anime trilogy obviously wasn't great, but
No, that wasn't great.
no, that wasn't good at all. I mean, 1 and 2, you and I saw
'Cause
1 and 2, and then I didn't even bother with 3.
because that's the thing with me. I don't think it's necessarily that I trust like the Japanese. I don't know if it's necessarily that I trust like like Toho or anything like that with Godzilla. I feel like I trusted the fact that Anno was the one directing that film, and that he wrote it, and I was like, okay, I love what this guy does. He's my favorite filmmaker, ever. So I was like, okay, I will buy into whatever he's doing.
Yeah,
And I know that for this one, at least he was involved, and I think he wrote the script for it.
for Godzilla
And
Minus
Shinji
One,
Higuchi,
this new one.
didn't he? Didn't he?
Did he? I don't know.
I think I think so. I might have my facts wrong. I thought at least he wrote the script, and that Shinji Higuchi, the guy who co-directed with him Shin Godzilla, I think he's like the full director for this film.
It looks like it was written by Takashi Yamazaki, the same guy who's directing it.
I see.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't.
so I must have something fucked up.
Yeah, I don't see Hideaki Anno on here anywhere.
Takashi Yamasaki. What has this guy done?
I don't
He's been
know.
nominated for 6 Japanese Academy Awards.
Oh, he did
6
the
in a
movie. He did the movie Always Sunset on Third Street, which weirdly Godzilla makes a cameo in that movie in like a dream sequence or something, or it might be the second one. I don't know, but it's like a famous kind of weird appearance of Godzilla where he appears in someone's dream just out of nowhere. But it's not actually a Godzilla movie. So I
Oh
guess
no, yeah, you're right. I'm getting my shit fucked up because the what I'm actually trying to talk about is that movie, Shin Ultraman.
oh yeah, I still got to see that, man.
Yeah, because in the Godzilla in like the Shin series that Anno was doing for Toho, um, they did Shin Ultraman next. That's where I messed up. They did Shin Ultraman. For
Yeah.
some reason, I thought that they were directing like the new Godzilla movie. So I don't know. I have no expectations for this Godzilla movie. I'm obviously gonna check it out.
Yeah.
But I've not. I want to check out the trailer to see if maybe there's any reason for me to get maybe a little bit hyped.
Yeah. I mean, it looks really good. It just seems I was informed again that there is going to be another monster in it, so I'm hopeful for that. Because before I knew that, when I watched the trailer, I was like, "We're really doing another Godzilla movie where it's just Godzilla standalone, by himself." I mean, I don't know about that. It's like we can do one of those once in a while, but for the most part, it's like there's got to be other monsters in it.
Yeah.
At least to me, it's like that's sort of been the tradition where it's like each time Godzilla's rebooted, generally, with the exception of Godzilla 2000, and then I guess the 2014 Godzilla. Generally, when we reboot it, it's like okay, we have Godzilla by himself, and we sort of do a little bit of a remake of the original 54 film. But after that, it's like, all right, let's get into having them fight other monsters. Let me see, Godzilla Minus One, other monsters. Let me see. I don't know. I heard someone said that in like a fan club, like Facebook group that I'm in, because I'm a giant freaking nerd.
Yeah. Giant Godzilla. Hey, you're a Godzilla-sized Godzilla nerd.
Yeah, I'm probably I'm probably like one of the only like people out there that actually like does like looks like behaves normally and also likes Godzilla.
Yeah.
Like is like socially acclimated. No, I'm just kidding. Any Godzilla fans, I'm sorry if I've offended you. I've been drinking a little too much, but it's okay. It's a drinking episode, ladies and gentlemen.
It is a drinking episode.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to that. I mean, Godzilla's the shit, man. Godzilla was my childhood, dude. Godzilla's like what got me into film. It really is. I love that freaking giant ass monster.
With a big butt monster.
Yeah, I didn't. I
But
don't
we'll
know.
see.
I didn't notice that,
We'll see,
Edward.
man.
I don't know why you're
I noticed that.
objectifying Godzilla.
I've noticed that about Godzilla.
Yeah, I mean the
I've noticed that a
legendary pictures, the new American Godzilla, he's got cankles, that's for sure. He's pretty heavy set. I'll say that.
He's a heavy set Godzilla.
Oh, dude, he's freaking he's huge. But
he's bottom heavy. The Japanese one.
oh hell yeah. Anyway, with all that being said, Edward, why don't you give us your as I sit here finish
laughing there is back for transition.
Yeah, as I sit here and finish this bottle of wine. Why don't
Dude,
you?
I think somehow us stopping and having this break is actually now it's like noticeable. It's like, oh, this man's been on something.
Well, at least I was able to keep it together this long. So, Edward, give
Yeah,
us your recap, man. What have you been
you did it.
watching?
You did it for a bit. Yeah, you did it for quite a bit. You kept it together.
Dude, that was like when I'm telling you, man, when I was in like high school slash like college, before drinking age, between the ages of like 17 and 21. I was a master at faking sobriety. Like, there would be
Yeah.
times when you're with your friends and you're just you're being so goofy and you're laughing about something that you just can't, you can't hack it. But like, dude, I remember I was a master. I was a master. Like when I was 18, 19 and my friends and I would get, fucked up and go to Hardee's or something and get food to like soak up the booze. Dude, or Waffle House at like 2 a.m. Of course, walking there. We wouldn't drive. I would never do anything like that. Dude, I was a master. I was a master at the sober walk, man. At just acting sober. Like, dude, I could just turn it on. I could just turn it on. Like, I was just like, yes, waiter, I would like 2 large waffles and some hash browns and 3 sausages.
I might have seen that in action.
Oh yeah, you definitely did when we were in college, man. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. When we were under 21, and so we still had to actually run when cops would crash parties.
Yeah, that's right.
But then when we turned 21, when cops would crash parties, we'd stay there and hang out with the cops until we had it.
You were just here.
Yeah, remember that shit? And the cops would like just hang out there joking around with us. Until we found a new venue. Like, then when we figured out where the next party was, we'd be like, all right, well, see you later, officer.
From there, give us enough time to figure it out.
Yeah. But anyway, Edward, what you been watching, reading, listening to, etc.
Well, for my recap, I'm going to start off with my listening. I've listened to a handful of albums actually over the past week. I listened to one Mr. Harry Styles. And I listened to all of his albums. Yeah, because I'm in the H. If you remember last time, I was listening to Haim, so now I'm a Harry.
Wow.
And I listened to all his albums. He has 3 albums. He has a 2017 self-titled album, and I thought that album was okay. Like I didn't think it was bad. I also didn't think it was very good. I thought it was just like a very okay first album. Not much complaints, but also just very forgettable and very forgettable hooks. But the song "Sign of the Times," which is song number 2, and the song number 8, "Ever Since New York," are still pretty good songs, and I really enjoyed them. Then I listened to Fine Line, his 2019 album, and that album was pretty good, if not great. Like that album is just banger after banger, just great song, memorable songs. Literally from the first song of the album until the song number 7 to be so only, they're all great songs. They're all great songs. The album only has 12 songs, so 7 out of those 12 are great. I don't like She or Sunflower very much. I don't like Canyon Moon very much. And I don't like to Treat People with Kindness very much. But I do like Fine Line, the last song. So 8 out of those 12 songs I really like. And the other 4 I don't hate. I'm not very partial towards them.
Okay.
So I thought that was a very good album, honestly. And then I listened to his latest album, Harry's House, from 2022. 13 songs. Not as like hook heavy or like memorable song heavy as the previous album Fine Line, but still very like solid album. The very first song, Music for a Sushi Restaurant, is very good. As It Was, which is song number 4, is very good. Daylight's very good. The song number 8, Cinema, is very good. Satellite's very good. Keep Drive is very good. Like it just has like really good songs. It doesn't have a stretch of good songs. They're like sporadic. As opposed to Fine Line that had like a really strong like first like 2/3 of the album were like really strong. Harry's House is just more sporadic, but it's still like a pretty good album. I have no complaints. I don't think Harry's House is like I don't think he's like a bad musician or a bad artist or anything like that. I think he's pretty good. I think he
Yeah.
deserves whatever praise you give him. Um,
Yeah, I mean
then I
the
listened.
song as it
Go ahead.
was is one of the most listenable kind of pop hits
Yeah,
of
yeah, of
the
course.
past 10 years. I mean, it's a decent song, you know.
Yeah, like I know people have like said that his music is like a little bit of like background music, specifically the third album, not the second album. And I agree with that a little bit, but that's not like a flaw of the album. It's still pretty good. Like, and honestly, if like background music, it's like sometimes as good as it gets in a way. You know, there's
Yeah.
a lot of music that you can't play in the background of anything. Um, but then I listened to a Japanese pop slash rock alternative album from 2018 by a female artist named Harutosyura. Oh no, rather that's the name of the album. The album is Harutosyura, but the female artist is Haru Nemuri. I've had this album like in my albums list for a really long time, literally since 2018. And this is a pretty good album too, pretty solid, pretty good. Great up points, but sometimes it kind of annoyed me a little bit with like the its uses of experimentation. Like its use of experimentation makes the song number four, How to Totsuda, almost unlistenable for me. Because I love it until it gets to the experimentation part of the song, and then I'm like, okay, I have to skip, you know. But pretty good album. I'm not gonna attempt to name the songs, so they're all in Japanese. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do my Japanese thing, my Japanese readings. It's pretty good. If you enjoy Japanese pop, rock, experimental music, go listen to it. It's a pretty good album. Um, then I listened to a Japanese pop slash folk album by one Haruomi Hosono, and the album is called Hosono House is the name of the album. And this album is great. I loved it. I love listening to it. Again, if you like Japanese pop, it's pretty good. Especially, actually, I'm not gonna name the songs. They're in Japanese. I'm not gonna do it. It's pretty good. If you like Japanese pop music, it's pretty good. That's all I have to say. I'm not gonna attempt to name the songs. But that's it for me, music wise. And then I also watched the first episode of the One Piece live action show on
Oh, okay.
Netflix. Yeah, because now One Piece is a live action show. Of all shows, One Piece is a live action show.
So you're dipping
Um,
another foot into television,
yeah, yeah. So I watched the
huh?
first episode of that. The first episode is like over an hour because they're adapting like multiple like episodes into one live action episode. And what I have to say is that other than like the uncanny valley elements of it sometimes of kind of being like, okay, this superpower element didn't translate the best to live action, and other than the parts in which maybe it's not that faithful to the source material, I'm okay with it. I would say it's okay. It's okay. It's not like the Cowboy Bebop thing that was like apparently just horrendous. This One Piece
I
thing
still
that
haven't checked
was
that out. Yeah.
I know, neither have I. Neither do I plan to. But I did watch the
Yeah.
One Piece one. You know how much I love One Piece, and I do have to say that it was not egregious. Didn't make me angry, and I enjoyed it watching it for the most part. I don't know if I'll finish it. I might just leave it at episode one and let it be. I mean, it's a movie. It's like as long as a movie that episode of that show.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anybody wants to check out One Piece and they hate anime, watch the live action. It's pretty good, or at least it's okay anyway. But that's it for me. What you got?
Yeah. By the way, with the Cowboy Bebop thing, like, dude, I have not even Netflix. I think tried to purge all records of that show.
Yeah,
I mean, dude,
yeah.
I
I've
haven't
never
seen
seen
that
it
show.
recommended.
Oh, dude, I never see it
Yeah,
recommended or never see it. I
never.
mean,
You never see it.
and dude,
Yeah.
I'm someone who, film buffs, man. We scour Netflix for stuff to watch, because these days
They
there's like
bury that show.
yeah, there's too many options, man, and it's just like, yeah, they fucking buried that thing, nowhere to be seen. I mean, I feel like you have to type in in order to find it, you probably have to type in the full word cowboy before it even
Cowboy
pops up.
Bebop. Yeah, yeah.
It's like, yeah, you type in Cowboy Beepo, and it's just like,
What
you
does it
sure you want to
is?
watch this piece of shit? You type in the P, and it's just like, all right,
Yeah,
fine, we'll fucking
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah,
yeah. No,
I think
seems
Netflix
like they
definitely
learned
wants
their
to forget
lesson
about.
from that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. The original Cowboy Bebop was dope, man. One of the best
yeah.
show
No, that's a
endings.
master.
Yeah, one of the best show endings. I think my top 3 TV show endings of all time are Breaking Bad, The Shield, and Cowboy Bebop. Incredible.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
Yeah. But all right, so my recap here. All right, game face, Jake. Focus. Try to talk, even though you've just finished 90% of a bottle of wine. In like a very short amount of time on an empty stomach. Okay. So the only movie that I watched this past week was the movie Dog Soldiers. I saw Dog Soldiers for the first time. Have you ever heard of this movie?
I have not.
Basically, it's like the movie Predator with werewolves. It's like these so the description is a squad of British soldiers on training in the lonesome Scottish wilderness find a wounded special forces captain and the remains of his team. As they encounter zoologist Megan, it turns out that werewolves are active in the region. They have to prepare for some action as there will be a full moon tonight. So I was kind of disappointed by this movie. I mean, this movie has like a big cult following. I think the YouTuber Ryan Hollinger, who's like a well-known film critic and film YouTuber who does a lot of horror videos, he kind of recommended this movie as sort of an alternative to Predator. I have to say, now, interestingly enough, this movie is directed by Neil Marshall, who is the director of The Descent, which is a fantastic British horror film. You and I have obviously both seen this. The Descent, for me, is one of the scariest films. It's in my top 10 scariest films of all time. I will say he was definitely still coming into his own, I think, with this movie. Dog Soldiers, I can see why people like it, but there's just a lot of... I was disappointed by this film. It's definitely not a great alternative to Predator. I'll definitely say that. My biggest problem with this movie was probably the actual action scenes, which basically consist of the cameraman shaking the camera around.
Classic.
Yeah. And 5 cuts per second, maybe. Like in editing, I'm not even kidding. Like probably 2 or 3 cuts per second in editing. That was like the biggest kind of turnoff during this film, because the first act is like pretty good. And then when the action really starts, it gets really, there's a lot of really, sort of, there's a lot of attempts at humor that really don't work. A lot of the dialogue is really good in some places and then really shitty in other places. Let me think. There's a twist toward the third act that really doesn't work for me. So all in all, Dog Soldiers, I can see why people like it. There's a few scenes in this movie that are, that are definitely easy to like and that are really well made. But other than that, I definitely think it's pretty overrated. And then a movie that I'm surprised that I forgot to talk about this movie last week. And I wish I did, because I was obviously sober last episode, and this episode I'm not. But I'm gonna attempt to talk about this episode or this movie on this episode. And I watched the Korean it wasn't Korean. It was English language film, but partially Korean language. I watched the movie directed by Celine Song called Past Lives. Have you heard of this movie, Edward?
Maybe. Let me look it up and see. Let me look it up.
But this movie, it basically
yeah.
This was a great movie, man. Definitely recommend this. I definitely think I think you'd like it a lot. If you're a film buff, I don't know if you're anybody, honestly, not just a film buff. But
I've heard about this movie. Yeah, I've seen a lot of promotion about it too.
Yeah, no, it's a great film. Definitely add it to your watch list. Past Lives, yeah, it's a great film. It basically came out this year. Basically concerns a young woman who grew up in South Korea, but her family immigrated to the United States, in during when she was maybe, I forget how old, maybe 8 years old, 9 years old. During her time in South Korea, she was friends, and not just friends, but kind of in love with basically this other boy named Hae Sung, and she goes to America, and then as she gets older, like during her sort of early 20s, I think, she wants to become a writer. She sort of she reconnects with Hae Sung, this guy from her childhood, who, again, when she was a child, she was in love with him, and they sort of reconnect. They have FaceTime calls. They sort of develop this strictly long distance relationship. Because again, he's in South Korea, she's in America. So eventually she kind of cuts that off. She gets married to another guy. But there's sort of this lingering feeling of throughout the film of what could have been. That's why that's the title of the film, Past Lives. It's like, what could have been? Am I meant to be with this person? Were we together in a past life? Are we supposed to be together in another life? Am I supposed to be with this person? Just very, and I don't use this word a lot with movies. I don't use this term lightly, but it's a very deep film. It made me think a lot, and I highly recommend it. It's masterfully made. The soundtrack is incredible, and it's filmed immaculately. Just some of the shots that they did in this movie. What I'll say is there was a lot of beauty in the simplicity of the way this film was shot. And that's about all I'll say about this film. This is a great movie. I don't really want to give any more away. Just, you got to check it out. It's awesome. Great film. Really profound. And then
I'll definitely watch that movie. I think it's been a watch list to watch that.
Yeah. No, it's great, man. It's fantastic. It's it's one of the best sort of romance dramas. Just strict, it's not a rom-com. It's a drama film. It's a serious film. It's one of the best dramas, I would say, to come out this year. But moving on to television, much to Edward's joy, I started Atlanta finally. I gave in.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I gave in. I started Atlanta. I think I'm like 3 episodes in to the first season, if I'm not mistaken. So I still got a ways to go. I started it like 2 days ago, maybe, or yesterday. I can't even remember. I think it was like 2 days ago. But yeah, Atlanta's awesome, man. My favorite moment of the show so far was when Paperboy is like walking out of jail. And like the guard asks him, like, do you listen to Gucci Mane, man? And Paperboy just says, he's got this huge like scowl on his face, and he's just like, yeah. The guard's like, man, I locked him up, man. But yeah, Atlanta's awesome, man. I can't believe, I don't know what I didn't know what I've been missing all this time. I know I watched like an episode with you at some point during college, but Atlanta's great. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm glad you're watching it, man. Yeah, I love that show. So I'm glad. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth. If I remember, because I've forgotten a lot about it. Maybe I should rewatch it. I should rewatch it. So I haven't finished it. I still haven't seen like the last like season or 2, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. I just saw the episode with Migos in it.
Oh, that's a great episode. Yeah, that's a great episode. Yeah,
when he's got the briefcase handcuffed to his to himself, and I liked Donald Glover's storyline in that episode too, where he's like at this fancy like seafood place and he can't
And
pay
he
for it.
texts him to send me some money. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like trying to figure it
yeah,
out. It's just like, oh shit, how do I pay for this? But
yeah.
yeah, great show, man. I'm looking forward to continuing that show. I'm sort of wrapping up on the show Dark, which I've talked about on past episodes in the last couple weeks. But
Mm.
Dark, dude. So if anyone does, for anyone who doesn't know, Dark is a show on Netflix. It's a German science fiction television show. It's only 3 seasons, 8 episodes per season. It's done after 3. They're not making any more, as far as I know. So it's a quick, easy watch. Check this show out, especially if you like hard sci-fi or sci-fi in general. It makes, I've only seen a couple episodes of Westworld, but I'll tell you right now, just based off of those couple episodes that I've seen, Dark makes Westworld look like a children's show.
Really?
It's so sophisticated. It's incredible. It's a true, Dark is a true achievement of cinema, of television. It I have no idea how the writers wrote this series, a series this complex with its again, for anyone listening, Dark, it's a German sci-fi television series about it's a hard sci-fi series about time travel. And I have no idea how the writers wrote all of these complex time travel storylines and paradoxes and, you know, character reveals. Oh, this character is that character's father, and this, you know, the show, if you look up Dark Family Tree, there's a whole family tree with all the characters in it. You know, I mean, it's like it's insane because so many of them have traveled through time, given birth to one character that's like, you know, you're like, holy shit, that's that character's dad. Oh my god, that's that character's aunt. Like it's insane because they're all stuck in this crazy sort of time warp, traveling through time. And the show, what I'm continually impressed with about this show is that the show continues to, it introduces new ideas, but it introduces them really slowly, and it never overwhelms you with its already complex plot. It always gives you sort of just enough information and without spoon feeding you. They walk that line perfectly. They don't confuse you, but they also don't spoon feed you. I've never seen, I don't know if I've seen a work of fiction that walks that line so well. And I'm partway through season 3, which is the last season, and I'm really excited to see how this show ends. But Dark, check it out if you're, especially if
So
you're a fan of
Netflix,
hard
right?
sci-fi. Yep, Netflix.
Okay.
And then I've been watching a little when I wind down in the evening before bed. I always try to watch something lighthearted. So I've been watching a little King of the Hill, a little more King of the Hill for the first time.
That's right.
Dude, the best freaking episode that I've ever seen. It's generally the top ranked episode on most sites if you go to, but it's called Bobby Goes Nuts, and it's basically an episode where Hank Hill, his son Bobby, keeps getting beat up, you know, in school and stuff. So so he goes to a a women's self-defense class, and he realizes that he can just win every fight if he just kicks the person in the nuts. So so he just starts getting like drunk off power and just starts like kicking everybody in the nuts, anyone who like kind of talks back to him or messes with him. So it's a fantastic episode. The person who voices Bobby is actually Pamela from Louie, in case you didn't
Yeah,
know.
I know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I knew that. Yeah.
yeah, which is awesome. But let me see here. What else? Yeah, just a couple last things, I guess. So one of my favorite metal bands, Polaris, came out with their new album this week, and they actually this year lost their guitar player. I believe he was only. I don't remember, and I apologize. I don't remember the exact age that he was at
Mhm.
when he died, but he was in his 20s, and I believe his early 20s. He passed away recently, so my heart goes out to those guys. But they released their album,
Great album
Polaris.
cover.
Yeah, Fatalism.
Mhm.
And it's a good album. I can't decide yet whether I like this album, whether this album is as good or better than their I believe it's their debut studio album. Let me see here. The Moral Coil. That's their best album, but I can't decide yet which one I like better. But Fatalism's awesome, man. It's a great album. My favorite tracks off this one are Nightmare, Overflow, Harbinger, Parasites. I really love. I believe it's the Crossfire that's a bit of or it might be Aftertouch. I don't remember. It's one of those two that's like a slower song, very atmospheric, borders on shoegaze, which I really like.
Mhm.
But Polaris is one of the best metal bands in the game right now, and certainly the best metalcore band, I would say, in the game right now. Novelists gives them a run for their money, but Polaris has it on lock. So check them out if you're a fan of metal. And then lastly, I finished the novel that I was reading called Ask for Andrea. This is a
Mhm.
horror novel. I mentioned it last week, but just for the listeners, basically, this horror novel, it concerns three young women who were all murdered by the same serial killer, and now they are ghosts. So it's sort of like a mix. It's sort of a cross between the movie Ghost and I don't know, the Black Phone, maybe. Um, I guess that's probably the best way to describe it. So these three main characters, they've all been murdered by the same serial killer, who basically does, he takes women out, meets women through online dating, and you know certain ones who he's able to unfortunately convince to get in his car with him. He's able to roofie them and kill them. Um, so these three women who are all victimized by this one serial killer, as ghosts, they sort of start to figure out how to influence the physical world and figure out how to nudge the police in his direction. And not only that, but also they try to help the serial killer's wife and children, who of course have no idea that he's a serial killer, sort of get away from him before he kills them while he's on the lam on the run from the police. So very intense final act. It sort of suffers from the second act drag, where it gets a little boring toward the middle of the story because I don't think there's a big enough plot turn at the midpoint.
Mhm.
Which the midpoint of a story, if you're a writer, you know that that's a crucial point because that's where you need this sort of big turn, right? In The Dark Knight, it's when the Joker's in prison and Rachel dies, Harvey becomes Two-Face, Joker escapes, right? Um, in The Martian, it's where Matt Damon has developed ways to survive, but now the sort of storms on Mars or whatever are knocking out his infrastructure, right? So you sort of have this big shift in the midpoint, and I don't think there's a big enough shift in the middle of the story in this novel. However, I'm really glad I stuck with it because despite that, the final act and the climax of the story had me biting my nails, just metaphorically chewing my nails to the fucking bone. I mean, I was invested, just turning page after page, just waiting in suspense, hanging on every word. Very intense climax of this novel. That's the biggest compliment I can give this novel. I was physically ill, just hoping um, for a good outcome during the climax
Mhm.
of this novel. So, yeah, ask for Andrea. Great horror novel. It's one of the best sellers right now on Amazon. At least last I checked, a couple weeks ago. But I think that was like the third novel I read this month, or August, I guess. So it's now September. So I generally average like 2-3 novels per month. I try to do at least 2. So
Mhm.
that was a good one, man. But that's all I have for this week, Mr. Edward.
All right. Well, sir, this was your pick this week for us. And so we watched a film called Barfly. What do you got? What do you say about that movie?
Yeah, man. I'm glad I picked it. It was I thought Barfly was really enjoyable. First of all, I mean, dude, Mickey Rourke, what a great actor.
He had a prime, didn't he? And that's kind of what I said last week when you mentioned this film, because I was like, oh, this is gonna be this guy, like when he actually was like, because
Yeah.
he fell off like hard, and I know that a lot of things with him had to do with like like substance abuse and stuff like that, and just maybe just I guess the trials and tribulations of fame and success. And then obviously, because then he had that turn in The Wrestler, and since then I think he's kind of been back to really not doing much of anything. But this was his heyday, man. And it really showed. Like that was like such a committed performance of that guy. Like it feels like it combined every like alcoholic. It was like it was all there. Just this
Yeah.
this like barely functioning guy, the way that he was walking, how he walked with like such like a wide like gait in his feet, like to him. That chipped tooth that he had, I have to look into that. He might have actually done that on purpose, like maybe even chip one of his own teeth.
That's
But
committed.
no, it was all there. Yeah, it was all there from him. Like he really went in on that performance. Um, Very fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, the performance, like, I jotted it down in my notes, but I said, like, I mean, the way he played that character, it was like he felt in most scenes that he was in, it was like he felt every emotion at the same time. It
Mhm.
was like I was watching that character and I'm like, all right, this guy's like happy-ish. He's not happy, but he's happy adjacent, you know? And it was like he's not sad, but there's like a sadness about him, you know?
Mhm.
And I was like, he's
Mhm.
not pissed, but he does seem agitated about certain things. It was like he was every emotion all at once, but also like none of them, and just kind of a laid back guy, you know? So, and there
Mhm.
was also something I can't remember what scene made me think this, but I wrote down that the character Henry is his name, which is Charles. The movie is based on famous poet Charles
Kowski.
Bukowski's life, who
Mhm.
I'm a pretty big fan of his. I like his work. He yeah, he says a lot that resonates with me about just you know the workforce, working class life, and um you know just being a person trying to make their way in the world. He says a lot that resonates with me. But this was his alter ego in this film, Henry. I forget his last name, but yeah, I jotted
It's like
down it.
it's like Chinaski. I think it's like Henry Chinaski.
Yeah, which is very similar to his actual name, but yeah, like Henry in this film, at one point it hit me where I was like, his demeanor and his charisma reminds me of Charles Manson a little bit. Where it was just like just this oddball kind of guy who just has this weird sort of magnetism about him that you could see like why people might be drawn to this guy. Um, Obviously with Charles Manson, to their detriment, of course. I you know just want to throw out there. I think Charles Manson is a massive piece of shit, but
Right.
or was. He died a few years ago in prison, but as he should. But but yeah, there was a weird sort of there was a thing in this movie. There was a part in this movie where I was like, this guy reminds me a little bit of Charles Manson, like some of those interviews and shit.
I didn't put that. I didn't connect that in my head.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a niche like thing to notice, but yeah, I was like thinking of Death Grip's ex-military, the opening of that album. But yeah, first of all, dude, I loved the opening credits and the soundtrack too, like the montage of all the bars. So just kind of the vibe of this movie I really enjoyed. Um I thought the opening 20 minutes did a great job of just kind of a day in the life character development. They definitely took their time. They didn't just take like one scene to develop his character and give us a day in his life. They took like a good 25 minutes before they
Mhm,
sort of introduced Wanda into the
mhm,
story. Sort of on a thematic like level, I thought this, I'd be interested to hear what you think about sort of the themes that this movie's putting forth and trying to speak on. But I kind of thought it was sort of weird. Like toward the end of the movie, I sort of thought of Freddie Gibbs' song "Something to Rap About,"
mhm.
where I was like, "There's sort of a similar theme going on in this movie." So I know it's a out of left field reference, but Freddie Gibbs, one of my favorite rappers, he has a song called "Something to Rap About," where he talks about, how God basically had him sell crack, so he had something to rap about, And I almost got
Yeah.
that feeling in this movie where I'm like, oh, this guy, he enjoys sort of being a bum and just,
Mhm,
you know, getting to know people and inserting himself into conflicts with people and things like that. So it's so you could tell it sort of feeds his inspiration, his artistic inspiration into writing these short stories and these poems that he writes. Um, so I'm not sure if I don't know if I can think right now of maybe a stated theme that this movie operates off of, but I can certainly, I could tell you with some certainty that I think this movie is just sort of about the conflict between um the light choosing a life that is well to do and affluent, and not everybody has that choice, but certainly choosing a life of banality and normalcy, right? Which Charles Bukowski talked about this a lot in interviews that he gave and his poetry, where he talked about how he just detested the idea of living a normal life, of working a steady job and going to ball games and having kids and the wife and all of that. And this movie definitely reflects that. And it's sort of oddly enough, and I think it's why this movie feels very slice of lifey, is because the main character Henry is not in conflict at all about these things. Like never
mhm.
once in the story is he like, I think I want to live a normal life. He's like,
Right.
no. The whole movie, he's just like, no, I like being a bum and I like just doing whatever I want to do, you know,
Mhm,
and not being beholden to anybody. And that I think that's a big on a macro level. That's why this movie feels very slice of life, where it's like this guy, he's not in conflict. He knows who he is. The conflict is with the other characters. He changes them.
right,
He doesn't change. But
right.
on that note, I'd like to hear some like more of your thoughts.
Well, it's interesting because I agree with that. Because initially, I was like, okay, I was like, this is a movie that's kind of doing a character. What do you call those? It's like this character assessment, like this character analysis of this
Character study.
guy. Exactly, exactly. Character study. So it's like this movie's a character study of this man, right? And we open with him, and he just gets beat up. Like so immediately you're like, oh, this guy's just a bum, and he's like fighting barkeeps and bartenders, But then the next thing we know he like beats that guy. They like fight again, and he beats him. It's like, okay, I think it's interesting. Um, and we can see that obviously he's struggling to make ends meet, struggling to have money to even pay for beer. He's clearly an alcoholic, but there's a joy that he has where it's like, oh, it seems like this is like this guy just likes being a barfly. Like he just likes going to bars and meeting the new people or just hanging out with the same people that he already knows.
Yeah.
And causing mayhem and getting in trouble. And like you said, like he just changes his characters around him. He meets this woman, Wanda, and he's like, just to her like, oh, she's crazy. Don't get close to her. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna talk to her and see what's going on. So then he starts kind of this relationship with her. And she's like, oh, I'm not gonna fall in love with you, but obviously she does, and they kind of have this like weird, dysfunctional relationship. So it's fascinating in that sense. And then this other woman's introduced, and she's like, "Oh, I've been searching for you because you have this poetry." And she presents him this life of like nice car and nice house and getting money and doing all this and that and the other thing. And he, like you said, he's like the movie never presents this as like, oh, like he's really gonna do it. It's like he never really even budges. He's like, no, it's like he says it to the woman. He's like, I can't, this is not me. This is not who I am. I can't be doing all this. I belong out there. He says, I belong in the streets. He belongs in the streets.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. In a way, it feels sad. Like in a way, I felt sad watching it because I was like, oh, this is somebody who feels like they have to be torturing themselves in a way or living like this chaotic life and be able to then have kind of like the worldview to be able to produce the kind of work that they're producing, to be working in the sense that they're working. So it's a movie in a way that's making like an argument for that and being like, this is a guy, and it feels true to that of saying like this that needs life to be this way, and then somehow he finds order in this chaos enough to keep himself at least not homeless.
Yeah.
And somehow with enough money in his pocket to either buy beer or to fight the bartender. So very interesting. Very interesting. But I agree with you, like in the themes of the film, it really seemed like that's kind of what it was trying to say. That some people are just not trying to better themselves. They're trying to be whatever stinking version of themselves they are because somehow they're thriving in their own head within that. So it's fascinating. I like his relationship with Wanda. I like that she beat him up. And he woke up all bloody and he was like, oh God. And I like that randomly
that caught me off guard,
he just broke
man.
into the neighbor's house. Yeah, he hit him pretty hard. But he broke into the neighbor's house and stabbed that guy. that was something.
Yeah, there was like an absurdism to this movie a little bit that oddly enough reminded me of Atlanta a little bit, which is, I mentioned earlier.
I agree with that.
Yeah. But you touched on a few things that that I definitely agree with. I mean, it's like it's kind of it's a very important point to touch on too with artists where I do feel like artists feel like they have to torture themselves and sort of I feel like that is, again, to bring up that Freddie Gibbs song, like something to rap about. I think that's sort of the deeper meaning of that song where it's like, again, like the standout line of that song is, God had me sell crack so I'd have something to rap about. It's like, it's sort of like, I need artists feel like, they need something torturing them to create, and I mean, a good example is, despite his recent transgressions is the, Dilbert creator, Scott Adams. He talked about how he would, when he became successful, he would artificially generate anger for creativity by going on Twitter and like looking at what people's opinions and getting in arguments with people and stuff like on Twitter. He would sort of artificially generate the anger that he felt was required to write something like Dilbert, which was which is, you know, sort of a workplace comedy. But you know, I could definitely relate to that a little bit, where I don't think you have, you know, I certainly don't think you have to be a bum to be creative, or have, or even be depressed or anxious or anything like that to be creative. I really think to be creative, you just have to have beliefs. And I think that's a big part of being creative, is having beliefs, and then also having really strong anti-beliefs. Like I'm very anti this, you know, and I'm against that, and that's what, you know, because that's how you put those beliefs in conflict with, whether it's you're writing a book, creating a film, making music, like whatever it is. It's like you're raging against something, you know, whether it's rage against the machine or fucking whatever. You know, I'm getting off on a
No, I
tangent here,
agree.
but
I
I
agree with
don't
what you're
think you have to
saying. I
torture
agree with what you're
yourself.
saying.
But I do think, you know, if you're a guy like Henry in this film, you're half right, where it's like you got to rail against something to be an artist, I think.
Yeah.
But I have
No,
made that
I
mistake.
agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to hear your thoughts on that. But just to finish my thought, like, I have been there where I've gone too far, you know, years ago as an artist, where I went too far down that road of feeling like I needed to be anxious and depressed and stuff like that, and I would just embrace it, and I did end up having like really, you know, some you know, mental health issues that I had to sort out.
So sort it out.
Yeah. Thankfully, everything ended really well, and I was able to wrap them up quickly. But you got to be careful with that, you know, as an artist, especially.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. That it's kind of that in and of itself is this fallacy, you know. And I think you articulate it in a way in which you still allow the movie to make sense with what it's trying to say. Because I think there is a lot of that kind of like, oh, I have to, you know, I have to do things this way. This is the way, you know, because people
Yeah.
like this have been, you know, because there's like this like weird like fantasy about it, and like, oh, this is the true way of making great things. But I think what you're saying is right in the sense that it's like, oh, you just have to have something um, that you feel is important and that you feel like it's worth fighting for, and have integrity and principles, you know, and then live life. It doesn't have to be like a tortured way of life, just a life to be lived, you know. Um, yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Everything you said, I back it up.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, and I think, you know, because I think when you don't have those as an artist, when you don't have those strong beliefs, you fall into that trap where you're sort of just making product, you know, and I think
Right.
that's where, you know, I don't know, I can't get in their heads or anything, but you know, that's where maybe people like, um, perhaps, you know, if you achieve the success of like a Spielberg or a J.J. Abrams, it's like, you know, you get to a point where you're just sort of making product, and you haven't even given yourself enough time to sort of remember how things were when you were young, and angry about certain things. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Because I think that's a very good point. It's like it's really about being able to keep yourself grounded. Because at some
yeah,
point, you know, your feet leave Earth, and then you're not able to actually like you're not able to do the things you're supposed to and see the world for what it is. You know,
yeah,
you have to keep yourself grounded somehow. And I think that's very important. I think you're right about that.
yeah. And just to be clear, I'm not charging either J.J. Abrams or Spielberg with this. I, you know, I'm just saying, when you reach that level of success, it's undeniable that there's a lot of artists out there, whether it's music, film, you know, books, whatever, where, like you said, you leave, you become, you're not grounded anymore, and you leave
Mhm.
Earth, and you become this sort of caricature of yourself, where it's like you get, you know, you're the opposite of Freddie Gibbs' song, where you got nothing to rap about, you got nothing to write
Exactly. You got
about, you
nothing to
got
rap
nothing.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, yeah, interesting point, man. I'm glad we touched on that quite a bit. But I guess on more of a
Yeah.
superficial level with this movie, yeah, I really like the soundtrack quite a bit. I loved the atmosphere of like the different bars that they go to.
Mhm.
And they're just sort of sitting in there. You know, I know like the second bar that he goes to when he gets kicked out of the first one, the Kenmore bar. I wrote it down here. Um, I really liked the just sort of atmosphere, the jazzy keyboard, funk keyboard that was in the background, and the lighting and everything of that scene. And it just, the whole montage too at the beginning and the end of the film with all the different bars, it just made the world feel. It sort of felt like the Simpsons, where it was like the world just felt, the town felt really alive and
Hmm. And you
real.
know what I think adds to that? It's all of the places where they shot were actual locations. Like they didn't shoot like on a soundstage or anything like that. And funnily enough, the even like the apartment where they shot the scenes between him and Wanda, that was like that only was an actual apartment, but it's also the actual building where the actual Bukowski and his like girlfriend were like
Really?
living in. Yeah, they found
Wow.
that out after Bukowski like visited this, and he was like, "Ah, you guys are where I live."
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Look at
One
that.
side, that's interesting, man. And one side note, and that even strengthens this point that I'm about to make, but one side note that I want to touch on is the fact that, this apartment, I mean, on one hand, it was a shithole with the way the walls looked and the floor looked and everything, but it was
Mhm.
pretty big, and it was
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty
it was
big,
like a penthouse.
spacious.
If you renovated that place, it would have been pretty nice. And I gotta say, it's pretty sad how in America in the '80s, a place like that was fit for a bum, and now
Hmm.
it's like a place like that is like,
Yeah,
a college graduate, who graduated 2 years ago can finally afford to live paycheck to paycheck to live
it's
in.
sad. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's sad,
it's
man.
it's crazy how far we've come, man. We really do just, yeah, we live in a fucking cyberpunk shithole, man.
Yeah,
Where,
honestly, absolutely.
yeah. And I mean, you and I have our finances together, but um, it ain't no cakewalk out there for people. And getting
No.
and in America, I feel like at this point, having your finances in order is the new rich in America.
Yeah,
I really do.
honestly,
Like having your
honestly.
finances in order and having a savings and not being a fucking wage slave, that's the new rich now. you know, and you and I have worked hard over the past couple years to get to that point. But yeah, it's nuts, man. Anyway, just a little side note that I wanted to touch on. Like
Yeah,
when I was watching this
yeah.
film, I'm like, these are bums, and they're in, like, besides the shit, the need desperately needing a new paint job, this apartment's like pretty fucking nice for two bums.
Mhm. It really was. Yeah, exactly. It really
Yeah.
was. Like honestly, it really was.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
now a
And like you
studio
said, it really
apartment.
highlights. Yeah, it really highlights how things are different now.
Yeah, because now a studio apartment that's like a quarter of the size of this one costs, fucking $1,400 a month to live in. And it's just like, what the fuck are we doing? How long are we gonna
Mhm.
let? I don't know, man. How fucking long before, you know Democrats and Republicans join hands and say enough is fucking enough? Like, I'm tired of these freaking corporate powers like just beating us
Yeah,
to the ground, into
honestly,
the ground.
honestly. Yeah. Yep.
But anyway,
Yeah.
but on that note, man, yeah, I thought it was a decent movie. I didn't think it was like spectacular or anything, but
Yeah. No.
yeah, very slice of life. And I've seen slice of life type films done quite a bit better. I'm
Hmm.
thinking of Richard Linklater here with Everybody Wants Some and Dazed and Confused.
Hmm.
I think these types of films have been done much better than this movie. However, I'll give this movie its credit where it's due. Um, yeah, it was a good time, man. Didn't quite give me the existential sort of, thematics that I wanted, but it was definitely enjoyable. I would say this film, I'm feeling like a solid 6 out of 10. What about you?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like for me, it really is kind of a six in a way where I really appreciated what Mickey Rourke brought to the table. I really appreciated the relationship that they had. Um, but like you said, it really ultimately felt kind of like a slice of life. Like, okay, let's see what happens next.
Yeah.
film. Not really much of a direction, but still like enjoyable to watch. Interesting full circle at the end with him just kind of being like, okay, let's get into a fight again. Everybody's yeah, let's go, let's go,
Yeah,
let's go.
that was great.
So it added this like nature of like this is just a week. This is just a week in this guy's life. It felt that way. It reminded me of what's the name of that movie? That Coen Brothers movie. Inside Llewyn Davis. It reminded me of a movie like Inside
Yeah,
Llewyn Davis.
dude, that's so
Um,
true.
yeah, so I appreciated it, and it was nice watching it, but yeah, six. A six is like a good number for me for this movie. Just for
Yeah,
like a decent movie. There's been movies that have been better. I love Inside Llewyn Davis. I think it's a better version of a movie like this.
I agree.
But this movie still has its merits, and I like it for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, 6 out of 10.
And you know what makes Inside Llewyn Davis better too? I just think that it really is hard to do a slice of life film and make it really engaging. Inside Llewyn
Mhm.
Davis it has a MacGuffin. It has a plot
Mhm.
device. It has like something that Llewyn Davis is trying to get in the
Yeah,
movie. And I think
yeah.
that just it's hard to make a movie where the character isn't really striving for anything really work.
Mhm.
Because in life we all want something, and that's how we relate
Mhm.
to stories. So it's hard to not have any sort of MacGuffin whatsoever. Um, which any layman out there who might be listening, a MacGuffin, not that's not even an insult. Just if you don't know storytelling terms, MacGuffin, it's just the thing the characters are trying to get. It's a plot goal. Um,
Mhm.
Coined by Alfred Hitchcock. Um, it's the thing the characters are trying to get that the audience doesn't care about, but the characters do. Um, but I digress. Um, what you got for us next week, Edward?
For next week, I am swinging us back into the Woody Allen territory,
Let's
but keeping
go.
us also because I know I've been kind of keeping every film that I've recommended. I've been keeping it in this very loose comedy, thing with whatever works, and Putney Swope and even Vampire's Kiss kind of adds to that in a way, in
Yeah.
a strange way. But back to Woody Allen with a romantic comedy. I got for us Midnight in Paris.
Oh, dude, I've been wanting to watch that for so long.
Yeah, so have I. So this is the time for us.
Damn. Dude, hell
Yeah.
yeah. I'm ready for that, man. I love me some
So
existential comedy.
yeah, so everybody next week, one of his greats, one of his late career greats, 2011, Midnight in Paris. Join us next time on
Let's
Film
do it.
Tangents.
All right. Well, that's it, everybody. If you're still here, I don't know why, because show's over. Get back to work.
Just over. Get
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Your Microsoft Teams profile is showing yellow. You've been away from your desk for 2 hours. The boss is pinging you. Get back to work, motherfucker.
It's time.
Next time on Film Tangents, folks. We love you. Thanks.
See ya. We're out.